sun come, beautiful, till it all burns out. We're like falling stars, miracles, dancing on the ground. And we're right with you to feel it stride deep dive. We're right with you, yeah. And we're right with you to feel it stride deep dive. Suffering grows, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful. Would you let me in? No, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful. Would you let me in? No, yeah.
Jason. All right, we are here to discuss something very near and dear to my heart and soul. We're here to talk about living structured water. And with me, I have a very, very special guest, Jason Verbelli, and he's a researcher of alternative energy in physics. And his focus is validating the claims of Professor John Searle and the work of Edward Dowdy and unconventional technologies. How do I say his name, Jason?
Dowdy.
Dowdy. Okay. He has diligently studied the fantastic properties of, get this, nanobubbles and how they can improve agriculture, industry, and restoration of the biosphere. He is the apprentice of the legendary late Professor John Searle and currently works with Fernando Morris, establishing the company SEG Magnetics Incorporated. He has unparalleled communication skills, such a typical Gemini, Jason, and simplifies complex topics in ways the people can easily understand. So for almost 2 decades, he has dedicated himself to addressing the history and contradictions in mainstream models while presenting the credible alternatives in opposition to relativity and quantum theory. Jason says, I'm intrigued and enjoy putting my skills to noble causes, and I'm committed to dedicating myself to any organizations I'm with. He's passionate about proper education and preserving information to help provide future generations with more freedoms and better quality of life. That's amazing because we really got to do something about this curriculum that's out there. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's very bad. We have a school system now, not an education system. So that's part of my deal, is to try to get proper fundamentals and get some cool ideas back into the people's minds again, and because it's been watered down in the school system,
watered
right?
down.
So, we got puns tonight. We got puns. So.
Well, I love that. What they say about insane is like they don't need insane asylums anymore. Like that's what schools are for. Like the crazy ideas that they're like programming and programming the minds with.
Yeah, it's not so subliminal anymore. It's kind of in your face. So whether it be on the TV or in the school or on the internet, we're just immersed and drowning in all of these fallacies, and things are getting covered up that might be beneficial for people. New studies are not discussed as much as they could be, and people are still stuck in an old paradigm, remaining stagnant in old ways of thinking. So what we want to do is be like water, as Bruce Lee said.
Let it flow.
Exactly.
We want to let it flow.
Shapeless and formless. So that's what our deal is today, is to try to talk about the nature of water, some very cool, beneficial technologies, and what we can do to try to duplicate that for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so key to like having thriving health. And, you look at all of these ancient sites and it's so tied to water. all of it. I mean, even the crop circles.
Yeah, there's some, from what I understand, there are aquifers and underground uh, channels of water under many of the crop circles, and also uh, underneath many of the ancient sites where pyramids are built. And water is a major part of, I think, the construction process of that. You got to have some water to make the concrete, because it wasn't just all chiseled out. So there's a chemistry to water, I think, that has been lost or forgotten and is now becoming anew again. And
I like to think of I like to sometimes think of pyramids as like if you had a water geyser and you were programming it, you know?
oh, like Dr. Masaru Emoto.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you have yeah, geometric forms uh, and coherent shapes, coherent, everything moving as one, everything evenly spaced. The more order that you have in something, the more benefit that you can receive back. And the more ordering that you have in water, it's not just ice that can be ordered water. You can have uh, other types of water that is different than standard bulk water, and we can talk about that later also.
Right.
But
What's fascinating too is like the fact that water can store, like you could program it and it could store data.
yeah, and it can act as like a computer, like liquid crystals you can program, like calculators and LCD screens, and the same might be the same for water crystals and for different electric states of water. You can energize that in order to make batteries and retain charge.
Well, this topic really energizes me. I'm like a sponge right now for your information, Jason. I'll let you get into it.
Excellent. I gave a talk few years ago. I think it was in 2016. It was called the Magnetic Field of Dreams, and in that talk, I discussed uh, electrically activated water and so-called structured water, and all of these different structured water units. And I sent you a link with some of those in there, and I'll try to go back into the conversation and put it in the chat or something. I'm not sure if people have access to that chat now or later.
Yeah, just let me know what link. I have all the links in front of me. I posted a lot of them in the description.
Excellent. Okay, so people have access to that. That's great. That's what I want to share. Is firstly, is that I'll give you like 50 different links. Sorry about that.
Such a Gemini. You're such a
Thank you.
Gemini.
I'm sorry.
I've got plenty of information. No, I love it. I love it when Geminis are on their purpose path, like because they'll floor you with so much information and back it all up.
Yeah, I'm not trying to obfuscate, I'm not trying to overwhelm people with the information.
No,
but
are you
there's
kidding me?
just-
This is like no pressure. It's just some of the most important information for humanity. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
whatever. So in that talk, I discussed the work of a man named Steven Settlemyer, and he came out with this company called Divinia and Divinia Water.
I have some.
You
Yeah.
have some of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
It's really good water. It's like seriously clean and very benefits. Not like other water. They distill that water 14 times at least. So it's
What's the source? What do they where do they get it?
that I'm not sure where they initially get the water. I think it might be from a clean well, or from their own water source that they had tapped themselves, possibly. So it's like not contaminated and gone through other companies. I'll have to double check on the source of the water. But what they do to the water is they filter it and then they distill it. Normally, you just to distill water, you do it once. You put it in a hot pressurized pot, turns the water to steam. You collect the steam on the other side. There you go. The steam becomes water again, and all the contaminants cannot rise with that steam and are left behind. So that's why the distillation process and distilling water is so clean. You don't like boiling water and then keeping that boiled water in a pot is not as safe or at all as boiling it, collecting the steam. Because when you boil water, it will concentrate the impurities like fluoride and the chlorine and other
Mm.
nasty stuff in there, because what are you doing? You're boiling the water away, right? More and more. What's left behind? The nasty stuff in the water. So you get more and more concentrated nasty stuff. So people, just boiling your water isn't going to do it. You have to boil and collect the steam through distillation. But this company and Steven Settlemyer, he does that 14 times. And while he distills it, he sends this in like a microwave unit, which has high voltage, like 5,000 volts, high voltage, like a Tesla coil. So there's all this electrical potential. The water is flowing through that. And then when water flows in a current, it develops an electric charge, an electric current. So magnets and electricity flow 90 degrees to each other. So he also incorporated pulsing magnets in with this distillation process. So you have the water flowing through and vortexing. You have it being subjected to high voltage. At the same time, you have 90 degrees to that electricity. You have the magnetic fields pulsing. And then you have the process repeating. So he says, Steven Settlemyer says that this process makes for the Mickey Mouse ears of the hydrogen and oxygen. You have 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. The Mickey Mouse ears hydrogen, he says, are going counter rotating. But this particular process makes it so that they are going in the same direction. And in that electrical state, it's a different type of water, and it serves a lot more benefit. And he has case studies of people drinking this water who were in hospitals and needed a kidney transplant or a liver transplant, and then they didn't need the transplant after that.
You know what's interesting is how I found out about it. This is a little TMI, but how I found out about it, a good friend of mine told me it was like liquid Coke. Like when he was telling me about this exact company, he said, "Oh my gosh, Julia, like you're a water snob. Like you're gonna love this. It's literally like Coke and water." Like he goes, "I feel so energized." He had health issues, he had ailments, and he noticed such an immediate difference. Like it didn't take a lot of time. He noticed it quickly, quick results, and couldn't believe the difference. So he immediately wanted to, what do you want to do? You want to run and tell the people.
Yeah. Eureka. That's what other tests of people drinking not only just the Divinia water, but other types of claimed structured water or aerated water, oxygenated water, hydrogen water. All of these different things apparently make your cells more individualized, more buoyant, have more surface area to absorb oxygen and deliver that oxygen. And more
Gilbert Ling, he says like the water inside you, like the molecule is different, but a lot of his books are really hard to understand. I think he passed away in like 2019,
a few years ago.
Okay, yeah. But the fact that of going into the water inside of you, like molecularly. But I would think that's probably be why like sound alchemy is so key too, like it harmonizing your cells.
Exactly. I was just about to say that the Tibetan monks and other Buddhists and different faiths have suggested that the water inside you needs to be corrected or ordered in order to fix certain ailments or mental disorders even. And by doing mantras or even Tibetan bowls and the resonance, or just bringing yourself to a different mind state, clearing your thoughts, doing meditation, becoming one, just staying in between breaths, whatever you want to call it, just getting into a more ordered, coherent mind changes the structure of yourself and the makeup of your cells. And the more conscious order reaps that physically. So it all starts with the
Yeah,
thought.
I talk a lot about cerebral spinal fluid, and it's very different that it's one molecule different than seawater. And then, huh?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's one. And then that's what really got me is I feel like such a broken record. I'll constantly talk about this like forever, but about how the flow to your heart, like the blood in your heart, like the heart, it spins it, like it spins the blood where it's like two streams that spin around a third one. And then with your cerebral spinal fluid, it does that as well. It spins it like where it's like DNA, two streams spinning around a third one. And so would have noted with that, with the living structured water and it, doing that divine dance where it's that vortex. I think it's key to us thriving. I think there's so much answers into that. And that's where like my dream would be for everybody to have an ingesting living structured water.
Yeah, you don't want to have dead, stagnant water. That's why even if you have, those milk frothers, just just put that in your water. It makes a nice vortex. Moving water is better than sitting water. So doing something is better than nothing. Even if you just shake your bottle of water or something, it might promote some hydrogen ions for a second. You drink it, and you might absorb something. It's better than nothing. All right. But that's part of the speculation from skeptics throughout the years is that you can only get so much benefit from water. There's no such thing as structured water. There's ice, but
so you're not a believer. You're one of those like it only holds it for a nanosecond. Oh, we got to get into that.
No, I used to think that, but changed my. I've gone back and forth on that, but now I am solid for now. That everybody was right up to a point, but the skeptics were dismissing a lot of information because they were just focusing on impurities in the water and they were not focusing on the bonds of the actual structure because there is something to be seen there. But
because there's people that say that this is like snake oil, right? They're like, oh, fourth phase of water, like that's not real. Like, oh, that's just a lie.
Well, they let them think that. I hear the lollipop trees are in full bloom this season in Dreamland. So, actually, I come prepared. So,
nice.
The fourth phase of water by Gerald Pollack. This came out in camera. There we go. Came out in about 2013.
Wait, I think you're frozen for me.
What?
Oh, they didn't want you to show the book.
All right.
I'll put the link for the book.
Yeah. Let's go to. Hold on, let me try something.
The magnets are messing with you.
I'm gonna rebuild this right here. How about that?
Get it? You're frozen.
Still?
There's a whole nother message. No, not anymore. I'm trying to take the dad puns to a whole nother water level.
Okay, wait. Is it gonna work this time? All right.
Nice.
Fourth phase of water, folks. This is what they don't want you to see.
Better out. Click on the link, buy your copy.
Hurry. I mentioned that in 2016 in that talk that I gave, electrically structured water and the magnetic field of dreams. Now I'm rereading the book again and finding new stuff, of course.
Jason, that's a great title, Magnetic Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
You should make a book and call it that.
I almost have one. I just every 6 months I thank myself for not coming out with a book because I get better information. And like 10 years later now, I'm like, shit, I need to come out with a book sometime.
For sure.
In that book, around page 54, so the chapter 2, there's a Russian scientist. Let me get his name correctly. Probably. Here it is.
I can't believe I mispronounced Dowdy. He spells it so different.
Boris Derjiguin. I think that's how you say it. So, page 46. And this guy was an originator of an idea about water called polywater. And that's what got skeptics really in a tizzy back then. It's like in the early 1900s. He said that there was this structure to water. It was like ice, but it wasn't ice. It was liquid. And that there's difference between water that wants to be next to the surface of something versus the rest of other water.
Interesting.
So they discredited this guy years ago because, and this was in Russia, they said he was a crank and a crackpot pseudoscientist because he couldn't isolate the special water from the rest of the water, but he knew there was something to it. And he either had sweat in his water or other impurities. And then he admitted, yeah, there are some impurities in it. And then they said, see, there's impurities. It's all hoax. And then they didn't talk about that for decades until Gerald Pollack and other people started coming in and doing more testing with spectroscopy and mass spectroscopy. Mass spectrometers and spectroscopers. So they tested the emissivity and absorption of the water and found that water that wants to be next to a hydrophilic material, like hydrophobic, pushes water away. Hydrophilic, give me that water. So you have
interesting. It reminds me of this realm, right? Like some people are like, come here. Some people are like, go away. Because some of them, they have like the positive in the water is like the positive and negative aspects.
But water is neutral, right? Okay. But when you stick like a needle or something that is made of a hydrophilic material, stuff that loves water, right at that surface of the water, just a few microns, just a little film around it, you have this negatively charged water. It's ordered water like a crystal, but not as ordered as ice, but it's a liquid, and it's been tested with electrodes and everything. It is indeed a charged water. But then there is a lot of hydronium ions, which produce a positive charge to cancel that out outside of that boundary. So the total bit of water is neutral. But when you test it very, very close, just next to the surface of a substrate or a material, there is a definite difference to this water, which gives credence to this guy decades ago about polywater. So Gerald Pollack has really clean water, no impurities, and was still able to isolate this stuff and do tests to show that indeed there is a difference of this phase of water, and it serves a lot of benefit. But as soon as you go to drink it, it mixes with the other water. It goes away from that surface, so you lose the effect immediately. So how do you retain that effect indefinitely? That's part of that distillation process of Stephen Settlemeyer's claim, and also more about nanoparticles and other. We'll get into nanobubbles later, but
I can't wait.
That's another part of it. Also, it's
like a rabbit hole.
Tiny stuff. Yeah,
there's like gold on that tunnel.
The literal gold nanoparticles. Yes, and that's a benefit also for cancer research and all sorts of stuff for alternative energy. But the point is that there is a different state of water it's ordered. It's not like it's not just like H2O with the Mickey Mouse ears. There's something else to it. Everybody knows H2O, but this is more like H3O2. It has, instead of a 2-to-1 ratio, it has a 3-to-2 ratio of hydrogen to oxygen. And it is formed more like a hexagon, like a honeycomb.
And it looks beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
And throughout nature, everything, Saturn has the hexagon on its poles, bees with their hexagon honeycombs, graphite with honeycomb structure. You can take a piece of coal and try to connect a power source to it. The coal isn't going to give you much conductivity, right? But if you turn that coal into a nanotubes or graphene, that same carbon, that same coal becomes extremely conductive, way more so than copper. Yeah, right? Yay, cool. Woo.
So cool.
Cool for coal. So it depends on the ordering of the material you have. Coal in its natural state, it's just a hunk of black rock, doesn't do much for you. But if you have one atom thick or thin, then it can connect like a chain link fence in a hexagonal grid, and then you can get much more conductivity out of it. So the more order that you consciously put into something is the more benefit that you can reap in return. And where do you find these hexagonal structures in nature is mainly in high pressure environments like Saturn, the center of the sun, or very, very high pressured states. And in those high pressure states, you get an ordering occurring for van der Waals forces and repulsion, because things are scrunched together so tightly that the electrons and the atoms are fighting against each other like magnets that want to repel. So then you get this even grid after a certain point of pressure. And that's what this other bulk water simulates, is a high pressure state. So anytime you have something simulating and mimicking a high pressure state, you're going to have some special stuff associated with it, because you can only get that benefit from a high pressure state. And if you consciously engineer that, then you're going to just reap that back. And same with water.
Water break.
Exactly. But
did you ever see Frozen Part 2?
I haven't even seen the first one. No.
You know what's funny is
Heard
like
the song,
everybody,
though.
people
Heard the
all
song.
over were telling me, like people I would meet, people I knew, they kept saying like, "Hey, have you seen Frozen Part 2? You really got to watch that. Like everything you're into is in that movie." And I remember thinking like, I'm never going to watch. Come on, you guys, like Frozen Part 2. I saw it and I was like crying tears of joy like throughout it. I'm like, oh my God, there's even an entrance at the top of Earth, like to inner Earth. Like it really is everything I'm passionate about.
What?
But
Really?
what they show about water, I highly
I'm
recommend
gonna
you.
have to
Frozen
bite the bullet
Part
on this
2,
one.
Jason.
Frozen
It's
2?
it hits different. It
All right.
does.
It's different.
It's like it's like a disclosure. I'm not even kidding.
Soft disclosure. Frozen 2.
I'm serious.
Excellent. Yeah, the ocean water. That's another thing that.
Yeah, the desalination. I mean,
Yeah.
there are places that do it, but California just announced that they are taking. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's happening here where I live in San Diego. The toilet to tap here.
Toilet to tap.
Yeah, and they're skipping the whole reservoir stage. So apparently, it's supposed they take this stuff and they put it in the bulk of some water, which then dilutes it, and then they take that and then they process it. They're like, nah, we're gonna skip that process and go straight from the pooper to your glass
mouth.
of water, dude. Yeah.
That is so wrong. Like, not only that, but I had made a meme actually about about the water in San Diego, that reservoir. They said that the governor, did you see that about how they
Blacked it out.
they dumped a whole bunch of like so much water, and they said that the governor told them to.
What? Newsom?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every time I drive down the 5 or drive up the 5, I'm visiting my family in the San Francisco Bay Area. You're going down the 5, and there's like the whole agriculture section there, and you see like, stop using our dam water, DAM, because they keep diverting, they keep damming up this water, and instead of using it for our agriculture in California and the crops, they just send it back to the ocean. Like, because the salmon and some fish, Man,
what really fascinated me I have this this friend who's a patent attorney, and he was discussing how he was doing a case, and the judge in Sacramento that was overseeing that case would pause it, and he would have to take water cases, and there'd be, because there's only one judge in the whole country that presides over every water dispute in this country. And so that I was like, I want to know more about this guy. Like, he's in Sacramento? Like, what do you mean one judge oversees all of the issues? He's no longer, I think he's retired. The guy but he's no longer the guy. But still, the fact that of how that works, that really blew my mind.
What? Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that one person, the water wizard, and it's not even Victor Schauberger. That's right.
He is like a water god, Victor.
Oh yeah, I have like all of his books, or the books that were written about him, and his implosion repulsine. If you're familiar with that one, That is an implosion unit it has slits cut into it, and it rotates, and it develops negative pressure from the rotation. So it pretty much sucks in air when it spins really quickly, right? So it mixes air with water like a Venturi tube or a Venturi mixer. You know what that is?
No.
You have a pipe of water. Okay. What happens if you poke a hole in that pipe? It'll start squirting water out, right?
Right.
What happens if you connect a long straw in that tube? It's not really going to squirt the water out. It's actually going to suck air into the tube and then put air into that as the water's flowing through. It'll suction that, and it'll create a bunch of air bubbles into the water. And that's a Venturi injector.
Wow.
So it's just like a hole into that. So you can have a bunch of bubbles in that, just leading to that. And I lost my train of thought because as I was thinking about another technology.
Take it. Just take it where it brings you,
There we go.
Jason. Take
So
it.
when you're sucking in, it's the implosion repulsine. It's acting like a trompe and a trompe. A trompe was invented, I think, in like the 15 or 1600s in France, and it makes compressed air, like to run machinery.
Mhm.
So you have a well, and you have natural water running down that well,
Mhm.
and you have a bunch of like straws or tubes or something sticking out of that well. So as the water is flowing down the well, it's also trying to suck air into that as well. As well. Yeah, right. Hey, you got unintentional puns. My gosh. So
Plenty more where that came
yeah,
from.
right. Gonna do this. So we got this entrained air mixing with the water as it is flowing down this pipe or this tube and channel. And what happens to the bubbles is, with more and more pressure, they start to shrink and they can become more compressed. And then you have a cave, a little opening underneath there, and all of those air bubbles collect at the bottom of the cave. Now you have all this massive pressure.
Mm.
So then you drill a hole to access that compressed air, and now you have like you have like hundreds of pounds of compressed air that you can shoot things with and have thrust with. So that's Victor Schauberger's implosion repulsine, where this device spins. You put just a little cap full of air into the slits, and it will suck in air in this thing, and it will start to spin super fast, and it develops this sort of vortex with it. And it is claimed that if you build it big enough, that's how you can make a UFO fly, by sucking in air enough up to a certain altitude.
That's interesting because, like, by Catalina, you'll see ships all the time, like UFOs, and they stop and they'll hover over a spot. And so it's like, what are they extracting? And I'm always like, it's kind of like a gas station.
Kind of refuel. They don't have to refuel.
No, but they're extracting something. So, like I
water?
don't know.
I have heard of
or
that.
gold, or gold. You know, I don't know. I don't know what it is. They're extracting something. And
there is gold in seawater.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very minuscule, but if you had enough of it, you could do that, or desalinate, or whatever the purpose is, because hydrogen is huge for fuel. If you can, metallic hydrogen even, but if you have enough pressure for that, that's not earthly. So that would be something very different. But also this implosion repulsine not only claimed to, generate lift. What happens if you put it underwater, or have it sitting at the surface of water rather, is it will suck in air from above, and then blast those bubbles down into the water. So you'll start to aerate the water like crazy, oxygenate the water. Fish love that. Plants love that. Biosphere loves that. What happens with an algae bloom and a red tide, like you see on the news? Red tide in Florida. All these fish turn up, dolphins dead. It's like huge amounts of algae and nasty muck and gunk just all over the surface of the ocean for miles, and it suffocates the sea life. But you can get rid of that, and you can solve all of that if you oxygenate the water. And how would you do that? Nanobubbles.
Yes. Oh my gosh, are we going there? Are we
Yeah,
ready for it right now?
maybe.
Okay, cool. Okay.
But
So,
before we get into the nanobubbles, give you a
uh-huh.
little more, give you another moment. I've been looking into all of these claimed structured water units for many years from
Ooh, this
people.
is key because
Yeah,
was really upset as the people that say I came across like a lot of inventors that are like, yeah, I made it, I figured it out, but I'm not telling anyone how to do it. I'm not releasing it. So I was like,
exactly.
what? Why? Why not?
Because
So it makes me ragey.
the reason why is because you can patent a device or a machine or a part, but you can't patent a know-how. So you can, if you know the process by which bubbles are made, you could make how many devices make bubbles? You can blow air through a straw in your chocolate milk. You can shake up your glass of water. You can vortex water. You can send it through a geometric array. You can have water and air mixing. How many ways are there to make bubbles? Lots, right? You
Mhm.
don't patent the knowledge of how to make bubbles. You patent a device that actually makes the bubbles. So then you can use all these ideas to patent this device, this device. So people say, I'm not going to tell you how to do it because they're trying to not become obsolete.
Mm.
Because as soon as you tell everybody knows they don't need you anymore. And then
But
that's
that's
that.
what's wrong with the realm, right? Like we're coming to a point where humanity's taking a drastic difference and it's like, oh yeah, you want to keep gatekeeping stuff? Like we don't have time to really do
Yeah.
that. Like
No.
no more,
Yeah.
for
You
what?
sure about that?
Like,
Sure about
you
that? You want to gatekeep? No. So, but,
open source.
yes. That's part of the deal is, I do not believe in open sourcing everything because you
Right.
don't want average people knowing how to like make radioactivity and nuclear stuff, you
No, I
know.
get that. I understand. I always say there's a reason why, like, you take away the L in learn and it's earn. You got to earn it. Like, I understand that there's a reason why certain spiritual knowledge is guarded. Like, there's a reason why I totally get that. There are
Before you're
definitely.
ready, you have to discover certain it's like you don't want to help a bird out of its egg. It has to hatch itself. If you do, it's going to be weak.
So
Uh,
you had the opportunity and you said to try all these different modalities and
yeah.
of living structured water, and this would save like that knowledge alone is going to save people a lot of time and energy. Like that's an
Yeah.
expertise, that's experience. Like we need more.
So that's why I put together within those links that you may have already shared this this 130-page PDF I put together with all these comparisons of different water structure units that I have
Oh,
compared and even combined, put together, took them apart, see how they work, and then showed people what they are, showed them what they're made of, uh, quite literally. And then I combine them. What are the best aspects of that and how to do it yourself in your own house? And if you want to purchase a commercially made unit by these guys like Dan Winter or Clayton Nolte or some of these guys who have made these units, then you have the option to. But if you find that they're too expensive for you, here's how to do it for yourself too. So,
ooh,
so,
Jason, dude, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that's
so that's what I did.
amazing.
That's what I did. And I like pissed people off for a while is like taking apart their inventions and showing people how they work for much easier, but
You're like,
still
this is how you
promoting
print
themselves.
it. This is how you 3D print this. So you and your family can, have
Yeah,
access to this. That's a really higher calling,
yeah,
Jason.
and then
I
yeah, and
off
then I get
you.
my page banned, and then I get people angry at me and stuff. Stop sharing
Yeah.
my work.
Wait, so you
Sorry.
have a Rumble though, right?
Yes.
I put the
Yeah.
link in the description, but go ahead
I
and say it like the name of it right now.
think it's just rumble.com/verbs or the real verbs. Jason Verbelli. People have called me verbs my whole life and called my dad that and my grandfather that. So
You're like, I'm
I just
really
ran
into
with it.
action.
Exactly, a man of action, right? Yeah. Not just talking. You got to do something with your
So
life.
what's your favorite machine or what's your favorite modality?
I like two of them, which I combined was Dan Winter's imploder nozzle. And mainly I took the aspect where he has magnets forced together, even though they want to repel, with the south pole facing each other is good to have water go through if you want to water plants with it. North pole facing each other is good if humans want to drink it and stuff. So there is different aspects of that. And
what about location? That's very interesting.
So he cycles the water through this vortex shaped 3D printed piece of plastic that spins the water one way and then spins the water back on itself. And then it is sent through these magnets that want to repel. But the magnets aren't just sitting in this tube. The magnets are against.
By the way, Jason, you are frozen. Just so you know.
Again? Good Lord. Hold on.
We're just going to keep plugging the movie Frozen. It's just
hopefully
a sign.
Hopefully I have an embarrassing facial expression on. Wouldn't be the first time.
Next time, do jazz hands.
All right. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. God help me, God.
Just start talking like an Italian, and then hopefully it'll just freeze in a really cool position. Like this.
Where was I again? What did I just talk about? It's like
you were talking about the Dan Winters one.
It was floating back on itself. So that's right. The water, as it corkscrews opposing itself in opposite directions, it is then sent through this tube, and on the outside of this tube are magnets forced together, even though they want to repel. But those magnets aren't just sitting in that tube. Those magnets are stuck against a plate of steel. Okay, so if you want the water to be exposed to only the North Pole, you have to have the South Pole of the magnet touching steel, because that steel will absorb the magnetic fields like a sponge, and that magnetic field will be trapped in the steel. So you have one half of the magnet on some steel, and then the other half just exposed to the water. So now you have mostly North Pole affecting the water as it is flowing through. You don't want to have the fields even as they are normally. So you have the water flowing through, and then in this other man's device, Clayton Nolte, his device is just a tube with spheres stacked in the tube.
Are you you're frozen again, so if you're showing
come on, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't know if I should keep mentioning it. Or
I feel like I'm being spiritually attacked. Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah. Yeah, for now.
Damn. So it's got this tube. All right, it's a hollow tube, and it's got spheres like golf balls stacked in the tube.
Oh, wow.
On two, on two, on two. That's it. Or you can do 3 on 3 on 3 on 3. It's just a geometric array of spheres stacked in the tube, and then you pour the water over the spheres, and the water is influenced to flow around the spheres. And as it does so, it vortexes and then vortexes, vortexes and vortexes. 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees.
I want to check that one out.
So what I did is I combined the two. So why not just put the spheres in a tube and then have magnets forced, even though they want to repel, on the outside of the tube. There you go. So I did that, and I have my home unit, and every time I make my water, I go through this process. First, I use a 5-stage reverse osmosis filter, and then I take that filtered water and distill it from there just once. And then I keep that in these glass bottles. That was like raw milk. Like, kept the glass bottles and then keep it in my water. My water in that, and then keep it in the fridge out of the sunlight. So that's, and the last part, once you distill your water and you filter it with reverse osmosis, you're taking everything out of the water. You're taking all the minerals, you're taking everything, all the good and the bad. So what you have to do is remineralize the water. So I have this stuff called Dr. Willard's Ultimate Concentrate. And this guy, Dr. Willard, made a chemical version of structured water. And he's the only person to have done that.
What?
and it's called Dr. Willard water. Dr. Willard's Wonder Water.
Willard's Wonder. I can't wait to try it. It's going to be wonderful.
And now his family has retained that business and continues to maintain that proprietary chemical concoction, which is just like metasilicate. It's castor oil and lignite, which is like
Wow.
ancient fossils and stuff. So he grinds that down and he mixes that into the water. And it's also something with like road salt, the same stuff they make road salt out of to prevent the snow. So it's just this mixture of chemicals. And what it does is it makes the bonds of the water retain this chemical structure. And when he was watering plants with it, they would grow faster. When cows were branded, he would spray this on it. The cows would be soothed a lot faster. I personally had my dogs for 18 years. They were Jack Russell Terriers, and their lifespan is anywhere from like 12 to 15 years at the max. They live to be 18 years. For 15 years, I gave them this type of water. I distilled it and remineralized it with the Dr. Willard. And I've seen other friends' pets come and go, multiple pets, still had my same dogs, that their breath never stunk. They were always healthy until the time it was to go. They just never had teeth problems, never had breath problems, rarely had stomach problems. It was
Willard.
Dr. Willard's
wonderful.
water.
Wow.
Wonderful Willard water. Yeah.
You know, Andrew Weber, I think Andrew Weber, he had information. He talks about the fountain of youth being distilled water. And I went in the phase of it. Like I was on this distilled water for a while because it's good when you're cleansing. I was doing, I was doing a lot of cleansing and purging. And because it does like take everything out.
Starts from your bones too. Starts to leach the minerals from your bones if you're not careful. Because remember, water is one of the most powerful dissolving agents in the universe. So you talk about acids and stuff. All right, put water under pressure. Okay, that's one of the things in this fourth phase of water. Good, I got to mention this. There is a YouTube video of a TED Talk with Gerald Pollack talking about this fourth state of water. Under that video, in a YouTube comment, I saw one of the most interesting comments from a guy who says that he is a gem cutter. He says he cuts gems all the time, and he thinks that he knows how some of these gems and crystals might form in the earth. Water, when it's under extreme pressure, normally at sea level, the water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. You go in higher altitudes, it boils at a lower temperature, right? So what happens if you go into the earth with more and more pressure? The water can't turn to steam. Even if it's like 1,000 degrees, it can't turn to steam. It stays liquid. Wait a minute. And in that state, it starts to suck in all of the minerals and dissolve everything from around it. And in this like soup of elemental atomic soup, this water that's pressurized. Now, what happens with an earthquake? A fissure is opened and releases that pressure really quickly. That's when you get flash crystallization, and all of those elements that are in the water, depending upon the difference released in that pressure, will flash crystallize as different elements. So like gold and stuff doesn't just come from supernova and stars and suns from billions of years ago. And all the gold that's on Earth is the gold that all exists in the universe from the Big Bang and supernova. No, that's all a fallacy. That's real.
It's like redirecting water is like a total ploy to like get certain golds and like an ancient practice to extract certain resources and form them a certain way.
And the water can generate these elements and generate gold just in a flash bang crystallization process. So you have this water that seeps down into the earth. It can't turn to steam. It dissolves everything around it. And it's the most powerful dissolving agent ever. And then during the release of pressure, dependent upon the difference of that pressure, will maybe determine different elements that will just form nearly instant. Nothing's instant, but very, very quickly. And if you compare that to like an atom, like the Northern Lights, okay, you have an atom that is charged with energy. It's charged so much, you have the electrons rising its state into the higher shells. It's not real, but you have the electrons rising states. And when it drops that energy, it will release that in the form of light as a certain color. So you have this pressure built up, and then once it's released, you'll get something equal to the difference of that pressure release. So you have water in the earth, soaks up all this stuff, flash bang release, different elements and crystallization from that release. So that I thought was extremely noteworthy. But at sea level,
you don't have to worry. Volcanoes too, and like what is that the result of mining, of that, and it just I'm going to dive down into like how meteors with Brittany, meteors and volcanoes, the composition being so similar, and that correlating that. But we have a question for you. My moderator is actually, he works on 14 different quantum computers. I'm always going to I'm always going to tell everyone. So sorry, Dub Selector. Right. But he wants to know, so do you add wonder water to distilled, like his
Correct. That's exactly what you do. I distill my water, and it comes in in this 32-ounce bottle that I get, and I just take the cap off. I pour some of the Willard water. It's a high concentrated alkaline solution. And then you dilute that 1 capful per 1 gallon of water, stir it up, and it turns the water into a iced tea amber color because it's concentrated with stuff. So my water looks like it's like iced tea all the time, but it's water. It tastes like water. It's crazy, but it's very fresh and really good. So that's yes, you have to dilute that in some distilled water, and that is what Dr. Willard emphasized. He also said to keep it in plastic.
Ooh,
I keep it in glass,
really?
But the reason why he said to keep it in plastic is because when you keep it in glass, over the course of time, it will develop this milky white film on the glass itself, and that is due to the polarization difference of the minerals and the glass.
Castor oil? Isn't there castor oil in it?
There is. So there's something about the polarization of these elements in that structure that will like electrostatically or magnetically stick to the glass. So he says people don't like to see that milky stuff. They just question it. So just keep it in plastic to avoid that. But it's better to have it in glass. But people, for commercial purposes, they don't like to see white milky stuff on the surface of stuff. So it's just keep it in plastic, and you'll avoid that because it's
there's this guy. There's this guy. He trained. He has this facility. He has a couple facilities, and he worked with Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant. He's in the sports stuff, and he has like Rife machines and all these different modalities that facilitate things, and he's open. But he spoke of in California. You've noticed a lot of the clients that live in California full time will have like fungal infections on their scalp, and that he feels like there's something in the water.
Yeah, it's going to get worse with the toilet to tap,
right? And that's why I'm like, can I just have like I'm just looking for microbiologists to just have like where I could talk to them.
You really need
killed a lot.
I mean, come on.
Can I just have a microbiologist on speed dial? Just to, we all need one. It's in the water wars that are coming, really, of like, it's crazy to me that it's the most abundant resource in the world and we're not utilizing it right. And we're like kind of clueless on it. And we're focusing on all this other stuff.
It's crazy. It's the most abundant resource we have. And we're still trying to use well water and not desalinating the
and we wonder why our consciousness is where it's at. Like it's totally tied.
It's 2024, bro. Come on. It's 2024. What is
toilet to tap? What? That's our solution? We're going to allow this?
No.
Toilet to tap.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Jason,
Get me
make
out
it
of here.
stop.
I want out of here, please.
Make it stop.
Another thing you mentioned, I wanted to say about the asteroids. You
Hmm.
said there's another guy, uh, Mark Leclerc, and he solved 100-year mystery about cavitation bubbles. So, like, uh, the pistol shrimp underwater that punches underwater, it develops a cavitation bubble. Dolphins and tuna, if their fins go too fast, they'll develop pock marks on their fins because of cavitation bubbles. Propeller blades on Navy ships, they'll get corroded with pock marks and get destroyed because of cavitation bubbles. Bubbles which are superheated steam, they grow and they pop. But if they're against a surface when they do that,
Hmm.
it develops energy equal to the surface of the sun.
What? Jason.
Pinpoint, which is why you get craters and pockmarks being exploded out of materials, out of the fins, out of propellers. Okay. So these cavitation bubbles, when they're against a surface of something, can create these jets, these asymmetrical collapse like a bubble, and asymmetric and uneven collapse against the surface. Boom, it produces a jet. And that jet right at that point will destroy a material and you can't stop it. It's like equal to the heat of the sun. It's crazy. So you can use that to your advantage for synthesizing RNA and DNA. This guy found that asteroid impacts into water can develop these cavitation bubbles and these cavitation jets, which will create complex amino acids and life just from the
Wow.
meteor impacts and asteroid impacts into water and salt water, because the electrolytes interact
No,
with bind and
that's
bond with.
great. I added into like in my Tartaria presentation at the very end, like cosmic bacteria. And then like I'd get there and then I'd be like,
Panspermia. Yeah.
yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm taking this way too far because
No.
of just like consciously of things that could affect things and
You're not
the
taking it
soil.
far enough.
You're like, take it
Yeah.
past that. And so you saying this right now, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
So this guy has okay. I'll mention this one. This is kind of a little more dangerous. He developed a cavitation experiment from stuff he got from Home Depot and ultrasonic transducers too. So not everything from Home Depot, but it was about $250. And he developed nuclear radiation in his garage with just tap water,
Oh,
cycling water and developing cavitation to the point where he and his partner lost their hair and got radiation sickness for almost a year, and they almost died. Like they were next to a nuclear event, right?
right. Like I
In
thought
their garage.
nuclear power was like steam water, essentially.
What they do is they use nuclear rods to boil water, which then generates steam. And then they use that steam to turn fans and turbines. So nuclear power is pretty much boiling water. That's what it is. It's about 25% efficient.
Wow.
No, we can do a lot better than that. We can do a lot better than that. So get this. You can generate nuclear radiation from cycling water and generating cavitation. This other man, Dr. Paul Brown, developed a method of converting nuclear radiation to electricity directly.
Mm.
So all of these spent nuclear fuel rods that they would normally bury for 10,000 years, trying to just hide them because of the radioactivity. They can't use them because they don't generate power enough anymore, but they're so radioactive, they got to hide them, right? You can take that spent nuclear material, and if there's a 10,000 year half-life, this guy, Dr. Paul Brown, figured out a way to turn that into a 10,000 year battery at a constant. So after 10,000 years, it'll only be half as powerful. So he was killed in like 1991 or something. He's like 40 years old, just as his company Nucell, Nucell, just as that company was going to go onto the stock market, he was killed. but what that does is converts nuclear radiation, and it's there's a book about it called The Half-Life of a Nuclear Battery. And imagine generating nuclear radiation from water
Mm.
and then converting that to electricity on demand.
Like the guy with the water powered car. Didn't he say like they poisoned me? Like,
yes, he was
like his
having
last words.
yeah, he was meeting with two Belgium investors, Stan Meyer, and he had a glass of wine. I'm gonna have my tea. And then he stood up in the restaurant and said, I've been poisoned. Help me.
Mm.
Ran out into the street and then died. And then they said, oh, he died of a brain aneurysm. It wasn't poison. Poisons can make you have aneurysms. You know, there's like government shellfish guns and stuff. You can shoot somebody and give them a shellfish poison and stuff, and they die on the spot. You can lace bullets with different toxins and stuff. CIA, and they've done that for years. So why wouldn't somebody poison his drink and then they attribute his aneurysm to, oh, he just had a bad brain? What?
The water energy tech, man. It seems like the fastest way to get killed.
So there's thing, and my good friend Russ Grease knows Stan Meyer's family and has since then obtained a lot of his original documents and some of his original equipment. Yeah, and Alex Petty. I have links for that one too. I can share later.
Okay.
But that was a main focus of my friend Russ with rwgresearch.com. He would try to duplicate Stan Meyer's EPG and his coil setup and his whole hydrogen setup. And he's doing this for years. There's something else about it that is not known yet. But I think that light and nanobubbles can
photons
contribute that, because there's a Japanese, or I think it was a Japanese experiment. They were doing some hydrogen cell experiments trying to make bubbles from hydrogen. You connect a battery to a cell, it's pieces of metal in water, the metal starts to bubble and generates hydrogen. Okay. But everybody knows you can only generate so much hydrogen bubbles from it, and it's less than the amount of energy. Cool. So these guys accidentally left their fluorescent lights on one night, and they came back and found that the hydrogen production was like much more than all of the other experiments, because they did all the other ones in the dark. So there was something about the fluorescent lights and the lights on the experiment that just produced more. So why not try to, find the exact emission lines of hydrogen and oxygen, and then make laser diodes just of that specific wavelength, then shine that on some water while you're doing the hydrogen experiments. Like, come on, people, think, like, do something cool. And then I don't think anybody's ever done that. But like, I would need money to do that. I don't have all those lasers. I've tried to get some lasers, and you either can't get them or they're like $300 per diode. I
really feel like the photons with the water, even with the scalar weight, like that's key. That's so key.
You still need water. According to current nuclear theory, you would have to have that heavy water from a nuclear containment system that has all this energy. You would have to have that heavy water convert into the electricity, because according to the nuclear theory. But that guy, Dr. Paul Brown, who converted the radiation to electricity directly,
mm-hmm.
He says current nuclear theory says you could only extract 0.063 watts of power from 1 gram of strontium-90. Strontium-90 has a half-life of 28 years. It's a nuclear material. But he found a way to extract 7,500 watts from that same 1 gram of material. That's over 100,000 times more energy from the same gram of material, and using that material as a half-life like a battery. So if strontium-90 has a half-life of 28 years, that means you can use 1 gram of that to power your house for 28 years nonstop.
Where do you get it? Is it like
you don't? That's the whole point. You'd have to have licensing and nuclear fed approval. It's Once you're dealing with nuclear materials, it's a whole nother ballgame. You need like $1 billion of funding. But Paul Brown was able to do that before all those regulations really took off. And he was able to get just like one needle, tiny little thin bit of strontium. Now, I have videos of this, of 1987, of him demonstrating this effect and generating electricity with it. If you scale it up, well, you don't need nuclear power plants. You could just use
right. And they're like totally digging for all the lithium and on the border of Oregon and Nevada.
What? Really?
Yeah.
They haven't sold out to China yet?
Right. And that's where it's like huge. And it's interesting, the history in that area. Like there was a lot of battles with the indigenous ones over that land. And then you find out like how rich it is in lithium. And it's almost like I feel like they recently discovered this, but that's.
There's more nickel in lithium ion. I think that's more beneficial than the actual lithium. But they're going to eventually, I thought they were going to do this years ago, switch to aluminum ion batteries rather than lithium, because I've heard that you can get 8 times faster charge in an electric car, or you can drive 8 times farther on the same charge or something like that. There's some claim like that, but the technology isn't available yet. They always use it for themselves before they commercialize it.
So, okay. So the living structured water, there's debate. I loved your video. There's debate on how long it holds it. And you brought up, and I was just absolutely floored and angered.
So just like we were discussing earlier, this Russian guy with the poly water, those effects are very short-lived, with the benefits when you try to test that water and remove the water away from the surface of something, the effect goes away. So if you want to try to drink this negative charged water, by the time the water leaves the surface of that a few microns away, it's already short-lived. If you are to send water and churn it and aerate the water, or even have cavitation in the water, you can promote hydrogen ions and negative charges for a very short period of time, maybe microseconds, or as long as there are bubbles in the water. So if you drink the water and you pour it onto plants, they'll have some more benefit, but it's extremely short-lived. If you want to have that effect last longer, you would have to have nanoparticles. You don't really want to drink nanoparticles, right? It's nasty. But you can have nanobubbles. Ooh, now here's the intro to that. So that's what the benefit is. We're going to talk about the benefit of nanobubbles.
Are we at the nanobubbles part?
Yes, we're there.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, you guys listen to this.
Right.
Oxygen nanobubbles, ozone nanobubbles, and also chlorine dioxide nanobubbles as a dissolved gas in water can be made into a fog or mist. The fog or mist can disinfect a room and surfaces within less time and with more efficiency than current methods. The nanobubbles can remain as a dissolved gas in very small droplets because they are 1,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. The nanobubbles are much smaller than the droplet of water vapor, mist, or fog, so there could be a high percentage of dissolved gas per microdroplet. There's also no danger to breathing any escape gases or radicals when nanobubbles are dissolved in water. So the bubbles of disinfecting gas will remain in a mist or a fog. They will dissipate and only kill a coronavirus pathogens and harmful microviruses on contact. So sunlight has minimal UV light in a broad spectrum and can take 2 to 4 minutes to kill microbes on surfaces with a given amount of lumens. But if you have a laser beam or LED at 235, specifically, that is a UV wavelength that can kill viruses and microbes much faster. Could even combine the fog or mist with UV light, like shining a laser beam at a glass of water or IV bag of saline. Turn the glass bag into a mock light bulb or lasting media, re-emitting the UV radiation, or like turning on your brights in the fog. It illuminates the fog at the particular wavelength being put out. So have a safe disinfecting fog with ozone nanobubbles that's stimulated with a UV laser or LED light to make the whole cloud glow, which will decrease the time needed to clean a given volume or surface area. Some hospital UV units use the long fluorescent like tubes that put out like a range of UV light, and it takes up to 10 minutes to disinfect a room, maybe longer. We are not looking to decrease the effectiveness of the ultraviolet radiation by blocking it with a vapor cloud, but rather we're looking to increase the effectiveness of the vapor cloud by irradiating it with UV, regardless of power level. Yeah, so dude, nanobubbles, Jason.
So
we're here.
there's a lot to this. So again, a nanobubble is a gas, a bubble that is compressed down to the nanoscale. So it's 1,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. That's pretty tiny. So how you make these is you have to have a series of pressurized chambers, like the type of chambers that you see in a movie with a clone growing in it or something. A big
a
old
vat, like Rick and Morty.
Yes, excellent. Yeah. So you need 3 or 4 of those, increasing pressure with each vat. So you have the water circulating with a Venturi injector. We talked about that. It's sucking in air and entraining that with the water, and it's vortexing. So now you have bubbles that are shrinking at the bottom of the vortex. Then those bubbles go to the bottom of the vortex and they swim around the glass again and then down about the boundary and down again. So then you have a valve and that water goes into the next chamber. It's more pressurized. So it does the same thing and then the same thing, and it repeats different stages until the gases boom, 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 boom. At the bottom of each vortex at each stage, there's ultrasound stimulating the water, breaking it apart, vibrating it. And that breaks it down the clusters even more. So then you have at the end, in the 4th stage, you have these pressurized nanobubbles, which are invisible, and they have about 250 psi in these tiny little bubbles. Normally, when you compress a gas, it will eject a radical like ozone. Ozone is 3 parts oxygen. It's not stable. That 3rd part of oxygen will shoot off and will hurt you. That's bad. You don't want to breathe in ozone. That's why those sharper image air ionizers were taken off the market years ago, because yes, they do clean the air, but as they clean the air, they also put out ozone into the air. So the ozone kills stuff, but you're not supposed to breathe the ozone. So you're supposed to allow the ozone to kill stuff and then dissipate, and then you come back in the room.
I wanted to try the ozone IV therapy. I heard it's miraculous.
Okay, that is another thing I'll get into, but it has to be done on the nanoscale. This is done with cancer research. They actually inject gas bubbles into people's veins. But remember, these gases are 1,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. So it's not like they're injecting a big old bubble. No. It's very, very, very trace amounts of dissolved gases that are absorbed through the lining of the tissue cells themselves. We're 1,000 times smaller than a red blood cell. So there is no worry about popping a blood cell or it stuck in the blood-brain barrier. Nothing like that. It's safe in clinical trials up to a certain percentage. So don't try this at home. Don't inject air bubbles. Don't drink all this stuff, okay? But this is
the wrong idea.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Warning. But nanobubbles have an electrostatic charge, a net electrostatic charge. So water, normally skeptics say water cannot be negatively charged. But like Gerald Pollack, yes, it can be negatively charged, but only at the surface of a material. So what if you have a bunch of nanobubbles as a dissolved gas in the water? You have the surface of that bubble creating a negative charge in relation to everything around it. So now the water itself is not negatively charged, but the gases in the water are negatively charged. So the water in this case is acting as a carrier for the negatively charged bubbles. So skeptics, rightfully so, for years have said that water The mass of water cannot be negatively charged. It's neutral. Correct. But what about the gases in the water that you're not paying attention to, that you're not acknowledging? So that's something different. So yes, the skeptics are correct in saying the bulk of water cannot be charged at all. But that thin film can be. They're wrong about that. And they're also wrong about the negative charge of the quality of the gases in the water. Droplets like mist or fog are still huge compared to the size of a nanobubble. So you can have ozone, you can have oxygen or hydrogen in these bubbles and not have any risk of breathing in radicals or being affected negatively. These nanobubbles are so beneficial. I have like a couple dozen commercial applications. I have been begging people to help me form companies to apply this technology in the United States or anywhere, because this really only exists in Japan, and there's only maybe 2 companies in the United States dealing with this, which inject oxygen into lakes and ponds and streams that have algae blooms, and they clear out the algae blooms within hours or a day, where normally it takes weeks or you're screwed. So what these nanobubbles do,
I'm interested in the nanobubbles, Jason. Sign me up.
Okay, so what they do, since the nanobubbles have a electrostatic charge to them, negative, what happens? Negative and positive, they come together. All of the impurities in like a lake or a pond, all of those impurities will start to have those bubbles be attracted to them. More and more bubbles sticking to the impurities, which then changes the buoyancy of those impurities, and they start to rise to the surface. So the more nanobubbles that you inject into the water will latch on to those impurities and make them rise to the surface. Now you have all this nasty scum and like foam and muck at the top of the water. But if you vacuum that up and you skim that off the surface, you're left with a pristine body of water. You can see through the water. The fish it's so clean, you can put a glass into the water and drink it right there. It's so full of oxygen. It's so clean. You can inject so many oxygen nanobubbles into water. You can have freshwater fish and saltwater fish in the same aquarium tank living for years. And this has been displayed in Japan. That's unheard of. You can, when you have an orchid plant, like a Phalaenopsis orchid, if you water that sucker too much, it's gonna drown. With oxygen nanobubble water, you can submerge the entire thing in water for months.
So the best way to create nanobubbles would be
to that's the thing, is you have to have a commercial unit to do that, which is about 50 to 100 grand to make. So in order to do that, you have to have a series of pressurized tanks, stimulate that with ultrasound, and then increase the pressure with each tank. And by the time it gets to the end tank, it will be in the nano scale. And then
okay, so if you bottle it, does it hold it?
Yes. It will hold it as long as you do not impact the water with more energy than it took to make the nanobubbles. So if you have a bottle of water like this and you splash it everywhere, it will ruin the structure of the nano. You'll impact it with a shock wave and dissipate the bubbles that have been collected in that glass. So you would have to freeze it as blocks of ice and then transport it that way and then melt it on the other side. You could also freeze fish and oysters in blocks of this oxygen nanobubble ice.
Ooh.
And then thaw them out on the other side and they'll still be alive. That's
what?
Yeah.
Think about, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
What you just said. Yeah. Mic drop. How do I drop this mic right now?
I got spilled water all over myself from this last demonstration. Whatever. We got
right. I love it, dude. So this is the whole vibe.
So the fish can benefit. Aquariums can benefit from this. Laundromats can benefit from this because the nanobubbles can penetrate materials and fabrics and get stains out of stuff much more effectively without needing detergents. So you can have a laundry machine that has ozone nanobubbles injected into the water, you wouldn't need to use fabric softener in laundry detergent anymore.
Wow. Imagine
So,
the beauty benefits
and
alone.
there are commercial units. I do have one of these. It's called an O3 unit. I connected it to my washer, and it cycles the water through it. It has a
Oh
high
wait, I think I
voltage.
looked at those. It's like
Yeah.
this big. You
It's
put it.
blue. It's
Uh huh.
like blue light. I got one of those. I've had them for years. It really
That's what I
does
do in
work.
my spare time. I look for stuff like that.
To us, it's like $235, maybe $300 now because of inflation. But it's very effective. And I use half of the amount of soap that I normally would use. And you can smell the ozone in there, and it's like, okay, it's working. So it's clean and disinfecting. So laundromats can use that. Aquariums can use that. Kidney dialysis. Instead of cycling the blood through a unit for hours, why not inject oxygen nanobubbles directly into that? And then that would
You're
save
frozen.
dialysis
You're
patients.
frozen again.
Yeah, it's okay.
Everybody,
we'll solve it.
go get Frozen 2.
We'll
Frozen
solve
Part
it.
2 plug.
It's all right. Hold on here. I think we get like 35 minutes and then I freeze up. Hold on here. We back?
Yeah.
All right. So
Jazz hands. Jazz hands.
damn it. You caught me dancing. Damn. All right. So we got aquariums, we got laundromats. You can use this for concrete. If you have like hydrogen, oxygen nanobubbles set in concrete, it is claimed that the concrete will set faster and harder.
Absolutely. That's the key of the concrete, because they say, you can't mix the concrete like you used to, and it's like a forgotten, but a lot of it has to do with the type of water that was used.
And the geopolymer concretes, like when they used to make the pyramids, they used a different chemical.
Oh, you'll start
formula.
a whole war saying the word geopolymer in
what?
there.
Oh yeah. That's excellent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Geopolymer.
All right.
Does it exist or not? Let's start the geopolymer debate. Like, there'll be a war in the chat. It's awesome. If you ever want some
David
action,
Davidovich.
just bring up
Joseph
geopolymer.
Joseph Davidovich. We love it. Bosnian pyramid too, huh?
Osmanagic.
That's right.
I literally have loved ones that are like, if you say Osmanagic, his name one more time, Julia, because I really I really think the world of him, and I think he's wonderful, and what he's done is wonderful, and everybody's tired of hearing about that.
What? How are you tired of hearing about it? It's like one of the greatest discoveries of modern times. What are you talking about? They're still digging it out. Come on. What are you talking about?
Right?
Bosnian pyramid, folks. There's a big pyramid bigger than the Egypts in Bosnia, if you don't know. Come on. Back to the nanobubbles. You can use it as a disinfecting agent. You can, let's see, what else could you use it with? I have wouldn't you like a champagne or a beer or a soda that never goes flat? You can,
What? Nano champagne bubbles? Jason, you're blowing my mind.
Nobody likes these ideas. Make millions of dollars with your boy. What? Nah? Come on. So imagine
Nanobubbles.
that.
Oh my gosh, I want to have the first nanobubble water company. Well, I want to.
We could call it Brondo. We can mix it with some Gatorade. Right? It puts this is going to be great. All right. So and it has electrolytes. It'll because that's what you need. The salts, electrolytes are salts, and nanobubbles form mainly when they combine and compress in the presence of electrolytes and salts. So normally the radicals would hurt you, but in this case, they bond with the salts in the water to produce negative static charge. So,
Dr. Robert Young has a lot of info on how important. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you
maybe I am, but not by name. I don't know.
You probably
that's just me. That's just
Dr. Robert Young. He talks about the importance and stresses the importance of salt.
Yeah, and in the book of the fourth phase of water, how salts can be detrimental to trying to detect the difference of the negatively charged water, because the salts interface with it, and it could be the salts doing it and not the pure water. So there's a lot of debate with that, but Gerald Pollack used pure water to dissolve any criticism about that now.
Nanobubbles.
Yeah. So nanobubbles are extremely important. I have videos of the Japanese in 1990 clearing out all these impurities from a lake, and all these fish are just happy in the pond afterwards. This
Wow.
guy dips in the glass of water and just drinks it straight from the pond right there. So you could use Victor Schauberger's implosion repulsine. You remember that sucks in the air and spins it? Have that sitting on the water and seeding in all these bubbles. You could have a van parked next to the lake and with all these compressors and vats in the van generating the nanobubbles. You send the nanobubbles to the Victor Schauberger repulsine. It spins and it blasts those bubbles all
Mm.
into the lake. So you can use all these technologies and all these things that we know about our favorite researchers and brilliant minds. We can apply them, combine them, and
Yeah.
use them for benefit to help people and form businesses at the same time.
Dude, we're at that time, like
It's
now more
2024.
than ever.
I mean, come on.
2024.
What are we doing?
Wait, you have a question. Bridget has a question.
Oh.
She wants to know if you talk to your water, Jason. Do you program it with your thoughts? You're like, I love
I don't
you.
need to
I'm
talk
grateful
anymore, but
for
I
you.
do. I just think
You're like, I
with
spin it. I spin it so good. It's hexagonal shape. It talks to me. That's what Jason just said.
Yeah, it's only
Talks
only
to my
when
cells.
yeah, exactly. If I'm too sober, then it doesn't work though. So no, but yes, I do do that. I did the Dr. Masaru Emoto rice tests and water tests. I did all of that for years and showed my friends that for years. They were like, "You're crazy." Like, yeah, I am, but it works, huh?
Right. I know.
Yeah,
When
I
I
believe
give
it.
advice, when people want to know like how to remote view and how to amplify their abilities and do things with their mind, it's so funny because it's like, purify, like,
Like,
talk to your water. Like
yeah.
the advice, clear, meditate, like the advice, it sounds, it,
Sounds funny,
it
but
does,
but
but how
there's
effective that is, what you're just, that's what praying over your food, praying it, like the charge that it gives and the energy and the
it
fact
does
that,
something.
you have, your DNA emits light and the photons that comes out of you. So when you are holding onto a certain vibration and the way that, exudes and changes things around you.
Hmm.
So, and knowing those facts, and then you're charging and you're doing it with intention, and that's amazing. Like we have powers that we don't want to believe that we can do that. Why not?
It's getting also in order to get there mentally, you gotta like drop, even if it's just for a moment, drop everything, like all earthly stuff, like the planet, the air you breathe, like the Matrix. You think that's air you're breathing now, man? No, everything. Talking your family, water, your body, just drop everything. What are you left with? Like, who are you? What are you? What do you feel? Like me, there's some unbelievable like joy and excitement like beyond, and it gets even more exciting the more you block out everything from Earth in this clown world. Like, oh my God, there's more. There's more. All right. So
You
there's
get all the messages, like that's what's so crazy. I'm like, you know what? When you first meditate or whatever, like for 20 minutes, you just let all the thoughts kind of go by like a river. Like it's going down a river, you're like, okay, like this came up, I felt a certain way. And then once you clear all that, like the real messages and stuff comes in, and that's when you get to the good stuff, the good
15,
part.
20 minutes. I thought you were going to say 15, 20 years. I'm
I know.
still working. It's a long journey. It's a long journey. But we have our moments. I have my moments in between breaths. That's where I find the calm the most. Not when you're breathing in, not when you're breathing out. It's in that moment in between. And when you're there, you just try to get rid of, even if just for a moment, just like, get rid of all earthly stuff, all physical, everything. It's like, who are you and what are you? And like, just
Stephen
joy.
Drysdale said he wrote "Pure as the dewfall," and that reminds me of like how the cordyceps that are grown at a certain
Yes.
elevation or higher. Hans, you probably know what I'm talking about, or what area? It's in that mountain, and it grows up there, but it's because of the dew that's collected at that elevation or higher, and those cordyceps go for more than gold,
Mm,
and you can only
I've
get
seen
them up
that.
there, huh?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen those particular cordyceps and people going up the mountain and trying to harvest them and stuff. It's like they're very rare
Yes,
and
I
highly
know.
sought after.
I'll look for people and I'll be like, "Hey, can you get some of those
Hey, get some of them shrooms,
cordyceps?
bro.
Get
Yeah,
some of those higher elevation cordyceps? You know a guy? You know
the higher
someone?
the
Contact
elevation, the
me.
higher the consciousness, bro.
I want those cordyceps for
Yeah, it's
sure."
kind of weird though. People want to eat that zombie freaking mold. Like that's what all the rest of the animal kingdom is scared of, and here we are just no, 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 no. It's like, give me that zombie mushroom.
Right?
You sure, bro? You sure about that? But
Fungus.
that's another thing is the nanobubbles can promote the growth of yeast and fungus and molds a lot more. So if you're looking to, you know, make beer or anything you make yeast with, why wouldn't you like
I gotta
bread?
tell my
Why would you
dad,
want to?
yeah, his sourdough. If he wants to
Yeah,
level up his sourdough and his
don't let that
bread.
collapse. Don't let that thing collapse.
With pizza dough with nanobubbles. You know how they say the water from New York City is what makes the good pizza dough.
What?
Yeah,
Oh
like
no. Is that?
we're
Oh
gonna
no.
nanobubble. We're gonna mess with it with our recipes and see what we could do.
Yeah, well, I'm not having any toilet to tap pizza dough.
Oh
I'll
my
tell you that.
gosh.
Nah, I'll take some nanobubble dough,
That
but
bums me out.
I know.
Like, and you know what? It is in
Nanobubbles
our
might be able to
face.
help with that, but still,
Nanobubbles can only do so much.
yeah,
Toilet to tap.
nah.
Oh, that makes me so sad, Jason. They don't need to be doing that. Why aren't they doing desalination before that? I mean, honestly, it's literally leaving the power in your hands, though, of like, what are you going to do about it? How much are you spending on your cars and your a fancy car when you could be getting a water system, like a top of the
Yeah,
line water system?
yeah. People like, well, I'll tell you one thing that household filters and water systems, at least in San Diego, are going to skyrocket. Yeah, so you're going to want to buy some stock into that, folks. Buy some stock into clean water before that goes off. Hey, do whatever the
But the
politicians
source,
want.
but they're getting it. It's still they run it through all this stuff, but it's still from the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This is
Ethan.
ridiculous, man. And what about atmospheric water generators? That's another thing.
Okay,
People
that's
don't know about that.
fascinating. Like the guy in Texas. Uh-huh.
That's actually I'm gonna
Explain what that is.
there's a guy in Texas who has a self-sustaining society or a little community, and he has the water atmospheric generators there. They've been around for like 25 or 30 years. People don't know this yet. What? Imagine a dehumidifier on steroids.
Mm.
So it extracts the humidity from the atmosphere and collects it so that you can drink. But it does so through multi-stage filtration process and UV light sanitation. So imagine, the Alhambra bottle. You go to the doctor's office, there's the bottle of water, and you get a little thing, a bottle of water. Imagine that unit, but without the big 5-gallon bottle of water on it. It just extracts the water from around you and makes it drink about 8 gallons a day, drinkable water with above 35% humidity. So you might get 4 gallons or less with less than 20% humidity, but it can still give you some drinking water. With solar panels, connect that. You got free water without need for pipes or wells or connections to city or paying anybody other than the solar power that you've already paid for. So
I know. It
atmospheric
makes me want
water
to say
generator.
y'all. It makes me want to be like,
Right?
y'all and folks, like,
Yeah.
listen up. If you don't see the direction of where things are headed and that it's time to get on your water source and purify and get down to like it's important. It's more important than ever.
Yeah, Texas needs water in certain areas because, from what I understand, they are trying to pump it and pipe it long distances, which takes a lot of power. So it would be better to have industrial atmospheric water generators that can extract something like thousands of liters a day, but with large air compressors. They're very loud, but they can still do the job of getting people the drinkable water in remote locations without need for rain.
Well, have you seen France? What they've got over there? Oh my God. You got to look at the plant and the way they have it. And then even throughout the city, how they offer like spots for their clean water everywhere. But it's very beautiful the way that of looking at their plant. But we have a comment right here, and he says the multidimensional meta magician says, Julia, HW set up some machine in a city for the community for free, and the water system was just sabotage. He said whoever did it knew what they were doing.
What? That's when you get to sabotage somebody's clean water. That's like,
What? That you're going to a lower part of hell. Like there's
yeah, that's
like
terrorism. Man. What the heck? Yeah, straight up.
imagine
What?
like the soul. Like imagine what your soul. Like what did we review what we do in this life, and you go back like, oh yeah,
You'd be like,
I
was
messed up
me?
their water. system. Like,
why would I do that? Yeah. Yeah, you got another 10,000 lives on Earth, buddy. No. Yeah, that's why we're overcrowded. Got people coming in here that aren't doing the right stuff. Just need to drink proper water, folks.
But I really did like what you said about with the living structured water. You know, you said how they report it holds it for a nanosecond, but that with plants don't have placebo effects because it makes such a difference when the plants have it, and that's
Correct.
such a good point.
And there's an article, I don't know if I included that in this one, that's called "Plants Don't Lie."
I love it.
Right? Could they do that? Have you
That
ever
should
heard
be a
plant lie?
series.
No plant ever lied to me. So,
Oh my God, I want to make that like a weekly like web series. Plants don't lie, and like and things that plants don't lie about, and how they hold is the data they store knowledge and data.
See, he wouldn't lie to me. That plant over there, we're
He
cool.
wouldn't. He's not. Look, he's shaking his head. Never. I never lie to you, Jason. He just.
So if you have like hydrogen water, oxygenated water, and you pour it on plants, they'll grow faster, which means they will have more root growth, which means more potential for nutrient uptake, and that means more vibrancy, more tastier foods, healthier foods, and larger foods. So you can get more food in the same harvest. Isn't that great? You get a 30 to 40, 50% more food from the same just by using better water and bubbles and stuff. Huh? Come on.
I talk about that, like gardens, like Cymatics gardens in like ancient times. I mean, they were so advanced with their soil and their food and the way it was made, but the type of water and just tasting that, But Bridget said something about plants sing. Yes, they do. And that's another good point, like argument point with vegans of saying like, hey man, plants know you're about to kill them before you do.
Exactly.
So
just
it's
because
like
you can't hear your salad scream doesn't mean it makes it okay. It makes it okay. Because you can't hear it. Yeah, there's a guy named Cleve Baxter. He did lie detector tests, polygraph tests. He connected his lie detector to the leaf of his office plant and found that it registered as if it was a person sitting before questioning. So
I wonder if plants can be possessed. You know how people can get possessed over spirits? Like I wonder if things enter plants.
Oh, like what was that one movie, The Happening or something? Remember that movie? Like
I never saw it.
The plants started emitting toxins and it made everybody crazy and like suicide themselves and stuff because the plants viewed humanity as a virus. So the plants started attacking.
There's times where I agree with that. There's times where I'm like, humanity, man, really? Like, really? Or there's a virus embedding humanity. I mean, maybe that, I don't know the source of it, but oh my gosh.
But plants don't lie. At least
plants don't lie.
Not to me. We're cool like that.
So nanobubbles, the direction you would take nanobubbles, like, okay, say there's this magical investor that comes along and they're like, listen, Jason, here's the money. What are you doing?
Commercialize it for restaurants and kitchens. Help people with seafood. So let's say, if you eat oysters, you eat seafood, there could be norovirus, there could be calcivirus, there could be nasty stuff in the oysters that you get a bad oyster, you're not feeling right. But if you soak the oysters and seafood in ozone nanobubble water for 24 hours, it eliminates all the bacteria and viruses and all the nasty stuff. So you can have pristine
You hear that,
food.
pescatarians? You guys hear that?
Haven't heard that word too often. So this would be, you have your fish and stuff, even if you're in fish farms. Horrible. You want natural free fish in the ocean. But
That's most places get theirs. That's their source, is the farm noise one.
If you are going to get it from a farmed source, why not have fish farms incorporate oxygen nanobubbles so that it would compensate for the amounts of fish that they have crammed in their ponds or tanks or whatever? So it's just so much benefit to be had.
I want to take a nano bubble bath. I do.
Thank you for saying that. That's another thing.
I want to
birthing tools for mothers giving birth.
Ooh.
Oxygen, hydrogen nanobubbles, so that the baby is first introduced to a negative electrostatic charged environment for its first introduction to life. And maybe that might have a difference or serve some benefit. It would be better than having tap water. I'll tell you that. So there's so many things that we can do to help people. Applications are crazy. And it all starts just with that series of tanks to make the nanobubbles. So at this point, I've been thinking of just contacting some Japanese folks and be like, hey, I will lease your unit, bring it over here so I can promote your technology.
Let me market this for you. Yeah.
Work together, do something, or get 50 to 100 grand in order to try and copy them and duplicate their good work without violating any copyrights. Because I have communicated with some of their associates who are in Canada and Japan, and they told me, yes, I am on the right track. I do have the correct information, but they cannot divulge proprietary information about the rate of flow of water, specific diameter openings, the percentage of gases that they use for given applications. They just can't share that because that's their personal research. I'm fine with that. But they did say, you're on the right track, and they're proud to see other people at least investigating this so diligently. So what I want to do now is take this information and apply it in commercial ventures that can help people. So the hospitals for kidney dialysis, for disinfecting, restaurants for cleaning the food, better stuff for aquariums, laundromats, concrete, beers. There's just, it's a lot. Please help, listen, do something, try something on your own.
Nanobubbles.
Yeah.
Nanobubbles.
It's crazy. So we need to start doing stuff because it's not going to trickle down from the top down. We have to start doing this from the bottom up and creating businesses for ourselves, teaming up, and just seeing what we can do. Let's try to do something here. It's enough is enough, because we can be living closer to freedom and health and independence more so than we are now. And all it takes is just a little teamwork. Okay, I'm down. Who wants to join? Anybody?
Who's coming with me? Who's coming with us?
Who's coming with me, man?
Who's coming with me? I work on this water train.
Exactly.
Seriously.
And that's another analogy. So some of these things, it's like going upstream, trying to fight your way upstream with society, trying to fight with, because once
interesting fact. I didn't know that until like the last year of that. The Colorado River used to flow the opposite direction, the other direction. And then, because I'm like, wait, what changed it? I think it used to flow the other direction. Yeah.
Is that one? Well, I'm going to look into that one. But like when we're fighting against the stream of society and their consciousness, once you first learn something, it will be an established like synapse or neuron pathway in your head. And trying to break that is a lot more difficult than learning things correctly from the start. So unlearning and relearning is a lot more difficult. So
that's why I'm like, dude, bulldoze it. Like, bulldoze everything you've been taught, and that's okay. And then, rebuild from there. We need a solid foundation.
Exactly. if you're willing to do that. Most people are not willing to do that. They need to be fed the information to them on a silver platter from their favorite, like, celebrity or idol or newscaster, like a Mayan priest delivering the interpretation of the solar eclipse for the people. So, like, you don't need those people to do that for you. But if people learn something wrong to begin with, they will defend that violently, and it will be very difficult to try to change that NPC noggin. So we
I
got to.
know, and those neuro pathways, and that's what I'll do too. Like I try to like just give like plant seeds.
Doing
Plant
something
seeds.
different will help with different synapses. Branch.
Always. Yes, I say that. I'm like, I always talk about this guy. He told me, and he said it, and he kind of sounded like a wrestler when he said it. It's like, Julia, you want to change your timeline? You just gotta do something different.
Gotta
That's
do
all
it, brother.
it takes. And I was like, I started laughing so hard. But like, it's funny. I find things that are like, it's funny because it's true. Like most of the time when things are really funny, it's because it's so true.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so true. If you want to change your timeline, you just do something different. It's
Like,
so simple, but it's so profound.
Because
it was for me.
influence you too. Because power is with you, but other people influence you. But again, you have to be able to drop all of that, even if it's just for a moment. And that's where you derive your power from, is that just non-earthly essence of yourself. And that's hard to find. It really is, because we're fully immersed in nonsense. So finding some sense of yourself is.
And we're supposed to eat for voltage. Our bodies are electric. Our bones are piezoelectric, and so there's this whole charge of way of living that we're not taught about. That's why like the frequency of fruits and vegetables. Fruits is like the highest frequency, but a lot of it is because of that nature living structured water, like inside of the fruit, and then the vegetables. So, and then just the American Indian way of you're not supposed to eat decay, like you're eating so thinking of your food and what you're ingesting in your body is like, I want things living. I want them at a certain frequency or higher, and eating. That's great advice too. Eat the rainbow. Okay, first of all, we need to take our rainbow back from certain types of people. Okay, but you're supposed to literally eat the rainbow. So you look at your plate, like, oh, look, there's purple, there's green, there's this. That helps out a lot as well.
Yeah, but you also have to tailor fit that to your person, to each person. You got to get your macros, right? You got to get your carbohydrates and fats and proteins in the proper amounts. I have somebody who can talk about that on another time. That's another episode. But,
yeah.
Jason,
I definitely want to have you back on again. You have amazing energy and you're a wealth of knowledge. And this information is so key because it's getting harder and harder to find a lot of this information. And at the rate of how they whack the ones that do show up with some pretty astounding solutions. I mean, come on, man. Like,
you know about my YouTube channels, right?
What?
No? Yeah, my 2 YouTube channels of 16 years were taken down by YouTube, talking about water, talking about magnetics and mathematics and models in opposition to relativity. They labeled all of my videos as medical misinformation. Each individual video, like dozens and dozens, we're talking hundreds. Every video on my channel, specifically medical, drop a magnet down a copper tube, medical misinformation, shine light through a prism, medical misinformation, show water spinning, medical misinformation. What? Everything. So 2 of my channels of YouTube for 16 years, I had them taken down, and Facebook took my channel of 15 years, my page of 15 years down. The page that I have now is my second one that I had to rebuild. Yeah, so these guys, I'm fighting against the grain like a salmon upstream. These people are making it difficult, but I'm going to be a thorn in their side for the next 40 or 50 years. I'm not stopping. This is my life.
Oh, man, with purpose. I love to see those Geminis on their purpose path, man. It's get out of their way. They're going to unload information, massive amounts of data. They're not going to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jason.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
We got to
And
do
thank
this
you all the
again.
listeners too. Thank the audience.
Yeah, they love you. They love you.
Hey, well, thanks. Thank you so much, and I hope to have another talk sometime. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Watch the sun come up, beautiful, till it all burns out. We're like falling stars, miracles, dancing on the ground. And we're right with you to feel it stride deep dive. We're right with you, yeah. And we're right with you to feel it stride deep dive. Suffering grows, yeah. Let's say that life is beautiful.